Hey folks, it's time once again for another countdown. Today we are going to rank all 20 of Kiss's studio albums and their cover art. This was an interesting research project for me, and I found out that there's quite a bit of trend, at least in my opinion. And again, this is a subjective point of view, but please take your time and give me your opinions down below in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel as well. So without further ado, let's do it. Let's rank those 20 Kiss studio album covers. Here we go. At number 20, I suppose there could be an argument, but after I looked at it, it's impossible to ignore how terrible and boring and blah this album cover is. It's Animalize, Kiss's studio album that had Heaven's on Fire on it. The album cover was not on fire.
R.I.P. Mark St. John.
At number 19, it's the album from 2009. My gosh, I can't believe it's been that long ago that Sonic Boom came out. The Sonic Boom cover, in my opinion, is their 19th best cover art for studio albums. In my opinion, this album cover looks like they're trying to modernize the Rock and Roll Over cover. I don't know if anybody else felt that way or not, but that's kind of the way I felt. There didn't seem to be a lot of creativity to it. It's colorful. At number 18 from 1989, it's Kiss's album Hot in the Shade. That album a lot of people have been critical of that album. There were a lot of songs on that album and a lot of throwaways. And it's funny because I think the one key thing about it, having that many songs on an album, was that people didn't... Why am I talking about the album? I don't know, but I just thought I'd mention it. There were too many songs on that album, and they could have made probably a much better album if they had chosen 10 or 11 of the best songs. But neither here nor there. This cover is boring. Just look at it. Blech. At number 17, it is Crazy Nights. The album cover for Crazy Nights here, as you can see, the fractured mirror of the makeupless Kiss. I don't know. Who cares, right? Some good songs on that album, but the album cover, I don't need it. Give me a blank sheet of paper for all I care. And maybe it's because I'm old school Kiss, but you know, when I first got into Kiss in 1976 as a 5- and 6-year-old kid, it was all about the look, right? I mean, the makeup, the blood, the fire, the this, the that. It was all about the look and wanting to take a look at the pictures and the superheroes that are your Kiss characters. And when they took off the makeup, I guess some of that may have gone away for me. Maybe you disagree. At number 16, I guess I put this one up here a little higher than a few, because at least this album cover had some glam band creativity to it, I guess, with the colors and the lips. Kind of felt like this was a Poison album cover and not a Kiss album cover. Kiss's Asylum at number 16. At number 15, from 1990, I guess it was 1997, the Carnival of Souls album. You either love it or you hate it, unless you're me, and you kind of like it, but you don't love it, but you don't hate it. They definitely got the feel for it right. It definitely has the grunge look to the album cover, but it was also probably about 5 years too late for grunge. At number 14, another one of those albums that I got to be honest, I love or hate. I don't love it either. I don't hate it. But the album cover just, I know what they were trying to do. But this time Bob Ezrin failed. This is Music from the Elder. That is my number 15 cover of the 20 studio albums of Kiss. Nice hand, by the way. Is it Paul's? Is it a model's? Nobody really knows for sure. At number 13, it's when the guys, the band, got back together in 1998. It is the Circus album, and the cover art I just took another glance at it, and as you can see it right here, right now, I don't hate it. It's just not the best. It honestly would have been pretty darn cool in the 70s if they could have done an album like this with a cover like this. If they could have done an album in the 70s called Psycho Circus, back in the days when there was more mystery about the characters, the makeup, etc. It just didn't have the same impact for me in 1998, but it's still a decent album cover. We're in the middle right now, counting down Kiss's album covers. At number 12, I've got Kiss's 1992 comeback album, Revenge. That's Bob Ezrin Take 3. And the Revenge cover, hey, it's a pretty cool album, at least for most people, I think. Most people agree it's in their definitely their top 10 albums of all time. Some people have it in their top 5, if not even top 3. The album cover, though, it's a little boring. But then again, for the time period, it worked okay. It worked okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. Again, just my opinion. At number 11, a sleeper album that for a lot of people didn't really take hold until much later. It is Creatures of the Night. Definitely some creativity there as Ace is on his way out. It's kind of a spookier album cover. They're still in makeup for at least a few more minutes. And this album cover is not bad. Of course, the album itself is probably better. At number 10, in some regards, this feels a little bit high for me on the rankings, but given how bad, at least again, in my opinion, basically all of their 80s album covers were, if you notice, this one probably is the best one of the 80s. Again, in my opinion, this is the Unmasked cover. I don't know. I never bought the album when I was a kid. By this time, I was still a Kiss fan, but the inner workings of Peter Criss leaving and everything, it just got a little strange for me. So at the time, I wasn't really into this album. I never bought it. I like it a lot more now than I probably ever would even back then. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I probably would have liked it a heck of a lot back then when I was a kid. I was only about 9 years old when it came out. But anyway, the album cover itself, at least it's got a little bit of creativity to it. Is it great? No. But it's kind of cool for 1980. At number 9, we have the first non-Kiss makeup album cover, Lick It Up. I put this here because it's obviously a huge moment in time when Kiss took off the makeup for the first time. By then, of course, Vinnie Vincent and Eric Carr were in the band, sans Peter Criss and Ace Frehley. They took the makeup off, and it was kind of a letdown when you think about it, of course, as Kiss fans. It's like, oh, great. We're seeing them without makeup. Two of the guys are like new. It's like, we want to see Peter Criss. We want to see Ace Frehley, which we already kind of had by then anyway. But point being that this is kind of an epic album cover. It's pretty generic, but at the same time, it's also a big deal. So I put this one at number 9. It's Lick It Up. At number 8, I've got the first album on the rankings from the 70s. This is one that, believe it or not, I did not own when it came out in late 1976. This is Kiss's Rock and Roll Over. I used to see it in the stores when I was a kid. I was so confused because they were releasing albums twice a year for the first several years of their career. And again, I was only 6, 7 years old at the time. Didn't really know what was going on. I saw this album in the stores and thought it was an old one. And I'm like, I see it's got a few of the songs on this Alive 2 album I've got, but the rest of them I don't really know and I don't really care. So I never bought it, but I spent a lot of time looking at the cover. And at the time, I thought it was kind of cool. But that's why I've got it here on the rankings. I think it's one of their better covers. Definitely belongs in the top 10. Aside from that knockoff of Sonic Boom that I mentioned earlier, this is the original version of it, and I kind of like it. So Rock and Roll Over is at number 8. At number 7, I got kind of goofy here and put 2012's Monster. This album cover is nothing special. Of course, you've got Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer now in the band. They put the makeup back on, of course, many years ago. There's something about the poses and whatnot, though, that really work for me here. I think it's about as creative as they could get at this point. I personally believe it's better than Sonic Boom. It kind of echoes and harkens back to the 70s with this type of artwork. So that's why I've got it positioned here at number 7. At number 6, once again, as an album, very controversial. Some people really like it. Some people really hate it. I won't tell you what my feelings are on that album right now, because maybe someday I'll do a rankings of how I feel about all the Kiss albums and where I rank them personally. But at number 6, I've got Kiss's Disco Groove with Dynasty. I think they did some really cool stuff here. Of course, their last album of the 70s, and it's certainly not as deep and dark as maybe some of their earlier album covers, but it does have some cool what am I trying to say here? It's got some cool pictures of the band. What can I say? I like the way they use the color scheme. It's not bad. I like it. Number 6, Dynasty. At number 5, this is one of the albums that I had when I was a kid and really found the album cover interesting. Maybe it was because I was a prepubescent boy. I wasn't even prepubescent. Heck, I could just learn to tie my shoes a couple of years ago when I had this album. But Love Gun, one of, I believe, 2 album covers that were commissioned by Ken Kelly. And I think he did a great job on this. I really like this cover. It is kind of haunting and kind of futuristic, underground. Almost reminds me a little bit of Planet of the Apes 2. If you've seen it, you know it. You understand what I'm saying. But anyway, that's where I've got this one. It's at number 5. It's Love Gun.
What do you think's going to be number 1?
At number 4, here's another album that I did not own as a kid. It was released in 1974. I used to look at the album cover as a kid in the record stores at Kmart, and I was always just fixated, especially on the back cover. Had no idea that 3 of the 4 band members were drunk during the back photo shoot, but I also saw naked women, and I was intrigued by that. And so anyway, Hotter Than Hell for me is at number 4 on the top Kiss album covers ranked. Are you starting to see a trend here in the top 10 or top 5? Once again, I'm starting to feel, and actually as I was doing this, feeling that things were a lot different in the 70s for Kiss. And even though the label, Casablanca, was actually under the umbrella of Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers was actually controlling a lot of this stuff, including the album covers, I just feel, strangely enough, that the album covers were actually better in the 70s than they were once they broke away from Warner Brothers and kind of moved on and started to have their own control over things. I don't know, kind of interesting. Again, that's just my opinion. Because at number 3, I had to put the classic Dressed to Kill. Most people probably know the story. The only person in the band that actually owned their own suit was Peter Criss. So if you look at this album cover, you can tell Gene Simmons, his suit is way too small for him. And it's just, I don't know, it's clever. And again, if you go back to 1974, 1975, it's kind of interesting. Them, New York City, on the street, taking a picture with their makeup on in suits. It's pretty clever for back then. I mean, this is 50 years ago. Nowadays, not so clever. Back then, it's kind of interesting. At number 2, I had to put the first Kiss album, the self-titled LP Kiss. This album cover is such a classic. Some of the outtakes from the photo shoot are great as well. Of course, the Peter Criss makeup is totally out of whack because he had some artists do it for him. That was a big mistake. But the other guys look really good and cool, and it's our introduction to Kiss back in 1974. And I just really like this album cover. I think it is epic. It is classic. It is an earmark in time. for rock and roll fans. So, and I also, if you know the story, Peter Criss claims that the photo shoot, the guy that was doing the photo shoot, well, first of all, yeah, Joel Brodsky was his name. So Joel Brodsky, according to Peter Criss, Joel Brodsky was going to put balloons in the background because he kind of looked at Kiss as being clowns. Now, Brodsky actually denies that particular statement from Peter Criss. So whether it's true or not, it's hard to say. But I can totally see some. And can you imagine if they would have muffed the cover by putting balloons in the background on that first album? I mean, yeah, the album, it's good, but it sounds not that good for 1974. And it just, they would have made them a joke. That would have made them a joke to begin with. And a lot of people thought they were a joke. And a lot of people still think they're a joke, right? But back then, if they would have had balloons in the background of that first album, who knows if we ever would have even heard from Kiss again if they would have done that. So thank God they didn't. The first Kiss album is number 2 on my rankings of Kiss album covers. And now it's time for number 1. If you're keeping track at home, you know exactly what number 1 is. Another Ken Kelly classic. This is the album that made a difference, in my opinion, in Kiss's career. Peter Criss's career, too. But in Kiss's career, Destroyer in 1976. It was my very first Kiss album. This album cover, I couldn't stop looking at it as a 5 and 6-year-old. It was amazing. It still is amazing. The painting, the artwork that Ken Kelly did, it captured everything, and then the music on top of it. I mean, it all goes together so darn well. It is very difficult for me to even consider putting anything else at the top of my rankings of all the Kiss album covers. So there you have it. For me, Destroyer, number 1. Thanks for tuning in. Again, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Give me your opinions down below. I want to hear from you as well. And maybe in the future, we can do some more of these. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.